Welcome back to Fundamental of Music class. This is the fourth class, and I am still Adetunji Matthew. And last week we were able to look into um, the core understanding of scales and key signature. We look deep, we delve deeply into the construction and patterns of major and minor scale. We also explore the intricacies of key signatures and the circle of fifths and distinguish between chromatic and diatonic scale. Today, we will look further into intervals and chord. You see that last week we were talking about intervals. Then we need to actually look into it. We've also talked about chord, and we need to actually look extensively into it. This lecture explores interval and chord extensively, examining their definitions, classification, construction, and their musical applications. Two foundational elements in the understanding of application of music theory are intervals and chord, and the interval forms the basic building block for musical scale and melodies, while chord constitutes the harmonic foundation upon which music rests. A thorough understanding of this concept is essential for musicians, composers, and music scholars. An interval in music is the distance between two pitches. The distance can be measured in semitones, which is the half step, and the whole tones, which is the whole step. We've been talking about it in the last class, or scale degree. So it can be measured in steps or tone and is categorized into two aspects. We have the quantity and the quality. The quantity is the numerical distance between notes, while the quality is the specific character of that distance, such as major or minor. Intervals are foundational to constructing melodies and harmonies, and they define the relationship between notes in both horizontal, which is melodic, or vertical, which is harmonic context. The melodic interval occurs when two notes are played sequentially, um, while the harmonic interval occurs when two notes are played simultaneously. We have something called interval naming in music. And what is it called? Intervals are named by counting the numbers of letter names, including both notes. For example, from C to E is third. So we say C, D, E, that's the third note. And then from A to D, we can say that's the fourth note. A, B, C, D, which gives it the fourth note. Naming of intervals can be categorized into two, which are the quality and quantity that we talked about. Interval quality, talking about the size, is determined by counting the numbers of letter names from the first note to the second. For instance, from C to E spans the letter C, D, E, making it the third. It includes, we have these types of, the types of internal interval quantity in unison, which is the first. We have the second, we have the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, and also the octave, which is the eighth one. The eighth one stands as like you're starting another um, um, another note from the start again. You're talking about the fact that maybe, for example, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. You are moving on octave from one either key or note to another. So it is very important to note that. So that's for quantity. While we talk about the interval quality, the interval quality of the interval quality of an interval gives more specific information about it. There are several types of interval qualities. We have the perfect, the major, the minor, the augmented, and the diminished. Talking about the perfect interval, these intervals are called perfect because of their consonant stable sound. And we have the following intervals which are perfect when occur in their most consonant form, which is the perfect unison, same pitch, the perfect fourth, which is C to F, the perfect fifth, which is C to G, and the perfect octave, which is C to the next higher C. Now, and we have the second one to be the major interval. Major interval are found in major scales. They include major second, major third, major sixth, and major seventh. You can see it as listed there. Major intervals can be made minor by lowering it by its semitone, diminished by lowering it to 2 semitones, or augmented by raising it 1 semitone. Minor interval. A minor interval is 1 semitone smaller than a major interval. This includes minor second, for example, from C to D. Now, instead of D, it will be D flat. It's reduced. It's make like you make it smaller than what is coming. So you reduce it by a semitone. So the minor third you see from C instead to E, instead of E straight, it was reduced by a semitone, which makes it E flat. So E flat is reduced, is smaller than E, while E sharp is increased or is bigger than E. So of which E sharp is not, we have a E flat. So the minor sixth is there and the minor seventh is also there. And we have the augmented interval. An augmented interval is 1 semitone larger than a perfect or major interval. You have augmented fourth and augmented fifth. You see what I said the other time, C to F. So when you talk about C, you have it increased, you have the sharp. C to G sharp, you have it increased as such. And lastly, the diminished interval. The diminished interval is 1 semitone smaller than a perfect or minor interval. And we have the example as diminished fifth, C to G flat. We have diminished seventh, which is C to a double flat, that's C to B double flat as such. The diminished fifth is also known as tritone, because it spans 3 whole tones. The inversion of interval, we have this thing called inversion of interval in music, and it refers to the flipping of an interval so that the lower note becomes the higher note, or vice versa. That is, the lower note can become the higher note, or the higher note becoming the lower note. The sum of an interval and its inversion always equals 9. So if you have, for example, third invert, then you invert it to sixth as such. So the third plus 6 is 9. The quality of the interval changes upon inversion as shown below. When we talk about the original interval perfect, we have the inverted one to be perfect. The major will turn to the minor, minor will turn to the major, the augmented will turn to the diminished, while the diminished will turn to an augmented interval. Chord. Chord is a group of typically 3 or more notes sounding together. Chord are built by staking interval. You stock interval, typically in thoughts about a root note. The most fundamental chords are triads and seventh chord, but extended chord can include 9, 7th, and 13th. We have types of chord. We have a triad, which is common. This is most common type of chord, consisting of 3 notes, which is the root, the third, and the fifth. We have the 7th note, which is a 4-note chord, also known as tetrad. Extended chord. These are chords with 5 or more notes. The major chords are characterized by a major third and a perfect fifth above the root. The minor chord on its own are characterized by a minor third and a perfect fifth above the root. The diminished chord are characterized by a minor third and diminished fifths above the root. And lastly, the augmented chord. This chord is characterized by a major third and an augmented fifth above the root. We have something called chord progression. A chord progression is a series of chord played in a sequence. You have the sequence, you have the chord progression. So progression from the harmonic framework of a song or piece of music. They are often based on diatonic harmony, that is using notes within a key, and serves to establish tonality and emotional movement. Basic chords that we use so much are the chord 1, chord 4, chord 5, and going back to chord 1. And that's common for classical. For jazz, we have chord 2, chord 5, and chord 1. For pop, we have chord 1, chord 5, chord 4, and chord 4 again. So one of chord 6 and chord 4 rather. So one of the most common chord in the Western one is chord 1, 4, 5, and 6 and 1. This progression uses three primary strides in the major key, which is chord 1, which is the tonic. It is used to establish key, and that's the home key. The chord 4 is the subdominant one, which which helps to move away from tonic. Chord 5 creates tension and builds tension in the music. And the last one is chord 1. You come back to chord 1, which resolves the tension and bring closure. In conclusion, we have gained perfect understanding into the key concepts of intervals and chords. We've examined the definitions of interval and chords, the classification or types. We've looked at chord progressions and its application to music. I hope that you are getting an understanding into what music is as we are moving forward in the class. And I hope that you go through your notes and gain perfect understanding into it. Next class, you'll be moving to reading. We'll be moving to reading. And I hope to meet you in the next class. Thank you.